So with the Premier League new season on the horizon, the fixtures were released, and we've got some tasty ties. I think the standout ones, obviously, I mean, it's obvious, and obviously Sky were banging on about it, is Leeds United's return to the Premier League. Finally, after what feels like an eternity. And what a game to play as well, playing the champions at Anfield. So that's going to be an unbelievable game. I mean, it's almost one of those where the result obviously matters, but I think you just feel for Leeds because it's been such a journey to get back to the Premier League. The first game result is almost immaterial.
Yeah.
But the good thing for them is they've got Bielsa in charge, who's not really lived through that. You know what's happened in the past, so he's just going to be focused. He's so driven, and obviously he's one of the best in the world. I think we've obviously spoke about it off camera. It's a disadvantage for the teams that are playing at home without the fans at the moment, because obviously during the sort of second half of the season and as we progress, you would imagine we're going to allow fans in. So that's a game that you really would have liked the fans to be in, but we don't. And I think we could have had an easier game because I think the other two promoted teams are weaker than Leeds, and I think that would have been better. But we've got what we've got, and I think it's just good to have Leeds back. I know there's a lot of sort of anti-Leeds fans, but I always think Leeds are a Premier League team.
Yeah.
One club city, and do you know what I mean? And just being right on it, I think it's to be super good.
Yeah.
How do you see it?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a mixed bag for Leeds fans because them playing the champions, coming to Anfield, they well and truly know that if they didn't already, they well and truly know that they're back in the Premier League, they're back in the big time, playing against Liverpool at Anfield. Absolutely amazing first game for them, but on the other hand, you've not got your fans there to watch it, taking the atmosphere. Unless they get us in a cup game, they're not going to get that true Premier League atmosphere at Anfield. And like you touched upon for Liverpool, it's going to be a really tough game. There's a lot of fixtures that I would rather have had. And if I was going to have to play Leeds, obviously I'd want to play Leeds away on the first game. Obviously, because the crowd are not there. Leeds is a notoriously difficult place to go to, white hot atmosphere, and to get that out of the way at Elland Road early on in the season would be a massive advantage as opposed to going there later in the season. But yeah, Bielsa against Klopp, it's going to be a battle of the minds, and Bielsa is quite a ridiculous manager by all accounts. Even if you think of what Pep said about him in the past, and it'll be good to see how he puts himself against all these top managers. And again, I think it'll be a very difficult game, one which I think we will edge, but I also think it could be, it wouldn't surprise me if it went to a draw if Leeds won, because it's going to have that feeling of. Do you remember when we came back from just after the COVID break? Yeah. We it was kind of like a pre-season atmosphere, and it took teams a couple of weeks to get going, and I think that's going to be very similar, because not only are we just coming from pre-season, we are going to be playing in front of no one, and it's going to be difficult for the players to get their head around.
It's going to be strange, isn't it? No, I get that, but you're kind of hoping the players have had enough experience of playing without fans that when this starts, they can motivate themselves and get themselves mentally in the right place to start and play when it does kick off. It's just you just don't know, do you?
Yeah.
The other few fixtures that really stood out for me were, it's just to mention sort of three managers, Arteta, Ancelotti, and Mourinho as well. So those three sort of came in halfway through the season or late on in the season. Now, this is their season. They've started now. They've had a good pre-season under their belt, and they can go. They've obviously brought some new players in as well. So just to sort of see, I always think the first game goes an indicator of how well, not always, but I think most of the time you get a good insight into how teams are going to play and how they're going to be. So I think Arsenal's first game, it's a tough one again. It's away to Fulham. It's another one, London derby, and I just think Arteta with the players that they've obviously bought Willie, and it looks like they can get Gabriel over the line as well. And just getting those bodies, and he'll have a pre-season under his belt as well, so he can really get his ideas over how he wants them to play. That'll be an interesting one. How do you see that?
Yeah, the Arsenal one, I think every team that goes away on the first game, I think it's not necessarily an advantage, but it's a bit of a plus, just because when you're at home, you're expected to pick up the points, and obviously the first game you've only been playing friendlies beforehand, so you're coming into it's Craven Cottage, isn't it? So they're going into Craven Cottage again, small, tight ground, good atmosphere normally, but they're not going to have the crowd, so effectively it's just going to be against U11 versus U11. Normally the technical team comes out on top, and again I think Arsenal will come out on top in that game, but only because, for no other reason than they are technically better than them. That's it.
The next one that I want to sort of touch on is both those managers. It's a Mourinho versus Ancelotti. So Spurs are at home to Everton. Now, it almost feels like, I don't know about you, I'd say for about 15 years ago, maybe a bit longer, when both those teams, what I'd call sort of like top half table teams, but sort of like they'd always finish between sort of like 7th and sort of 12th. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just sort of that mid-table, sort of top end of mid-table. And I feel like they've almost gone there, regardless of how much money they've spent. And the chopping and changing they've had, and the players that Spurs are buying. I mean, we've talked about it in another podcast about them just buying Højbjerg and Joe Hart, Spurs, and Everton. I don't think Everton have bought anyone yet. They're sniffing around with the players. But again, it's like that both Mourinho and Ancelotti now have had a pre-season under the belt, and now they're looking to build into their team. This is what they're going to work with. So yeah, I mean, you just sort of seen. I mean, the season when Spurs were nearly won it and Everton were sort of high up, that felt like a real fixture. Whereas now, I don't think it's got that influence, because I don't think you see either of them to really, unless they really improve, challenging for the top four.
Yeah, it's a massive season for both. You bang on, especially for both managers. More so Mourinho than I'd say Ancelotti. Mourinho's expecting, people expect big things from Mourinho. But with the way that the signings have gone so far this pre-season, I can't see him lasting the full season, if I'm honest. Ancelotti is Ancelotti. I've got no doubt they'll make signings. I've got a bit more money behind them now, and but again, this is a massive season for Everton, because now you've got quality teams that are, a quality team that has come up in Leeds. They're not. For me, Leeds are not going to be 17th and below. They're going to be mid-table. They're going to be pushing mid-table to Europe. In my opinion, I think you're going to have the likes of maybe like Wolves, Leicester. If maybe they fall off a little bit, you've still got Man United in that area. You're going to have Sheffield United, unless they manage to struggle. Like have that second season bounce. So you're going to have a lot of teams that are there and thereabouts that are going to be effectively pushing the likes of Everton further behind because usually Everton are quite secure in the Premier League. It's very rare that you find Everton in a battle in the relegation. It's very rare that you find them in a battle for the European spots. Now I feel like they're going to get pushed. They're going to be more in the lines of like a West Ham, although West Ham are a bit more of a yo-yo team. So you just, I think it's massive for Everton this season. I do think that they're going to get pushed further back, and I don't think Tottenham will improve any further forward, just because everybody else around them is improving.
Just the next game, probably the last one. I might have a look at another one after that. This is the team that spent the most, and I'd probably say they look the most exciting teams in terms of the attacking personnel they've bought and how they look like they're shaping up. It's Chelsea away at Brighton. You always want to see those players you've seen in Champions League for other teams like Ziyech and Werner. How are they going to do for Chelsea? Away at Brighton and getting analysed and seeing them on Match of the Day. I think it's just that excitement of seeing new players in the Premier League, top quality players as well. And then obviously you've got Ben Chilwell, and if Thiago Silva gets over the line as well, So they've got some top players, and again, I think Christian Pulisic next year has got, if he stays fit, I think he's got an unbelievable shout to be Player of the Year, because the games when he was fit and he played, he reminded me of like sort of peak Hazard. Do you know when he came, the stuff that he did? Just the game against Liverpool when Pulisic came on, we couldn't handle him. He was just phenomenal. He was just like he changed the game, and he seems to have. He's the best American I've seen in my lifetime. And I think he came from Dortmund, then Dortmund just seems to create these phenomenal wingers and just sell them on for profit, like Pulisic, Sancho, that's a team that I'm really looking forward to. It'd be interesting to see what they do with the keeper. Is Kepa going to stay? Is he going to go? Is Caballero going to, are they going to get Oblak? Because there's been, it'll be Lampard's had a full season with him, and again, pre-season with new players. And again, I think Brighton are an interesting one as well, because I think Graham Potter did brilliant last year. And obviously having that second season, it's always a bit trickier because everyone knows how Brighton play now.
Yeah.
They're not going to change their way up against Liverpool. They played out from the back a couple of times. Liverpool pinched it, they scored. That was obviously sort of post lockdown. And I just felt this annoys me from pundits, and it's something and I don't get it, because these guys have played the game. So when a team plays out from the back and it gets pinched, the ball gets nicked, and the other team has scored, or they seem to be struggling from playing out from the back, the simple thing always seems to be, why don't they go long? Why don't they go long? And he's sort of thinking, you guys have obviously been in a change room. You've been around an elite environment where managers say, this is our philosophy. This is the way we're going to play, okay? So the players are drilled to play this way throughout, all during the week, pre-season, everything. This is the way we're going to play. Then suddenly, because Steve McManaman, when they said on BT Sport, you need to start launching it, they're not going to start launching it. Do you know what I mean? And it just pisses me off. It's like such basic thinking. And the thing with it is, you'll say that, and then it'll get regurgitated on a Sunday morning. Do you know what I mean? When someone's trying to play off that, it gets cut out. So why are you doing that? You're bringing it on yourself. It's nice. There's ways of playing. Do you know, that going long is a very sort of English mentality. I can guarantee you, if a Spanish team plays out from the back and they lose it, they punt it, or they play manager, fans aren't going to say, right, why did they smash it into the channel? Do you know what I mean? It's just a different way of thinking. Just digressed a bit, but that was just my way of thinking.
You're totally right on that. I just wanted to comment on that. You are right, and Steve McManaman, as much as I loved him as a player, he was one of the few players that I actually got the name on the back of my shirt when I was a kid. Well, you think of my little skinny shoulders as a kid, and I've got McManaman wrote all over it. It's practically down half me.
What was it? £2 a letter?
£2 a letter, something like that, from Sports Direct. It's practically
costs a lot.
His name starts at like down near my waist and it ends down near my other side of my waist. And
you should have just gone Rush. You should have gone Rush, saved some money.
Absolutely loved him as a kid, but as a pundit, I cannot stand him. He's just, like you say, the rhetorical stuff that comes out of his mind, out of his mouth, is ridiculous. He's just a true anti-football, like you say, typical what you consider an armchair football fan. And like you say, they've been drilled. It's all brilliant when players are, it's actually working. They're playing it out from the back. They love all that. Oh yeah, this is a new way of playing. But as soon as something goes wrong, it's like I told you so kind of mentality. Why they're playing it out from the back. That's the only time I question it.
I know we're not talking about pundits. We'll probably have a podcast about pundits.
Yeah.
Really interesting point there. So, when the team plays out from the back and it's brilliant and they get through, the break play through the thirds and they get there, they create a chance. This is brilliant the way they're playing. As soon as it gets cut out, it's like to say, obviously it's not working, let's launch it long. It's like, you can't have it both fucking ways. Do you know what I mean? Obviously they're planned and they want to play this way. Football isn't perfect. Life's perfect. Things go wrong. You've got to deal with it on the pitch. The answer isn't always going to be just to smash it long. You're not a professional footballer.
Yeah, and that's what I loved about. Again, we're totally digressing away, but that's exactly what I loved about Guardiola back in the past. When Victor Valdez gave the ball away a couple of instances, I think it was one game where he gave the ball away maybe once or twice, and he says, "That's not on Victor Valdez. That's down to me. If he messes up in that game, that's me." Because I'm encouraging him. That's exactly what I want him to do. 10 minutes later, he picked up the ball and then he spread another one. He spread another one out, and it was a class pass. And he commended him for continually playing the way that they want to play. The amount of goals that are created by playing it out from the back in that system far outweighs the one or two that do go wrong. But yeah, so going back to Chelsea versus Brighton. Chelsea are in fact the team that I'm looking forward to watching the most next season, particularly the start of the season, how well they're actually going to do. This kind of it feels like it's went in a bit of a cycle under Abramovich. This kind of reminds me of when he first came in, when he brought in the likes of the Lampards, the Glenn Johnsons, and we were all excited about seeing how all these big players that were going to come in, how they were all going to integrate into the team. And now he's brought in a class player in Werner, class player in Ziyech, potentially, like you say, Silva, and Chilwell, and then a couple of other players, and I'm really excited to see how they do. I do think, that they'll put an early mark on the season. I think they will smash Brighton, but like you, I'm a fan of Graham Potter. I think what he'd done last season, throughout a lot of the season, was really good. He was really brave in how he played football. He's had I'd say half a pre-season to kind of put his ideas into fruition. I think they will improve this year. I think they'll benefit from it, but I just think Chelsea will be too strong. I think the players will click very early on, and unfortunately for us, we've got them actually one of the first games of the season. I think it might be the second game of the season, but we've got it at Stamford Bridge. And again, what I was saying earlier about the advantage of not playing in front of the crowd, that will help us in this game.
Great. Absolutely. But again, it'll be a test now. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, just to wrap this sort of new season up a bit, I just want your predictions on. We'll go with title winners, top four, and then who you think's going to get relegated as well.
Yeah. So you kind of put me on the spot there, but my number one answer, obviously, for the league, I think we're going to win it. I think we'll be too. I think we're going to be too consistent for Man City, and I think they'll have half an eye on the Champions League. If they'd won the Champions League this year, I think they'd have been a lot more focused on getting the Premier League back. But I just think that with them fighting all four fronts, I think that they will fall just short. It'll be us that will win the league, and I think we'll win it comfortably, regardless of whether we sign anyone or not, if we stay injury free. And then I think Chelsea will come in third. I think that Arsenal could push for fourth. Arsenal, Man United for fourth, and the rest. I think Leeds will do well. I think they'll finish top 8. I think Wolves will do well, and then the bottom of the league, I'm going to go with Fulham to go down. I'm going to go with maybe West Brom to go down, and I will say West Ham to go down.
Wow. I tell you what, you're so close to what I see. I mean, I think the top two, I think it'll be Liverpool, Man City. One of them two are going to win it. I don't know if I hope it's so, obviously, but consistency will. We are very consistent. I think we keep our consistency. We've got a way of winning where even if it's not pretty, we'll dig it out.
Yeah.
We've got a better defence than Man City, and that obviously holds us in good stead. So I think it's top two, and again, I think Chelsea will be. You just don't know. I think Chelsea can be brilliant, and you're thinking they'll finish the challengers. What they'd want to do is, I think every team below Liverpool, Man City want to close that gap between the top two, because the gap's massive at the moment. You know what I mean? And there's a big drop off from the rest of the teams from the top two. So I think Chelsea, and at fourth again, I think it's going to be a battle. It'll be Arsenal, Man United, Leicester, because I think lockdown hurt Leicester more than any other team.
Yeah. If
lockdown didn't come, because they were doing all right, they would have comfortably finished top four because they were well in, and they just completely dropped off. So yes, I think Arsenal, Man United, Leicester, one of them will take the fourth spot. I think. But you got Spurs as well. How do Spurs do? Do you know they're not going to realize that? You just don't know, do you? So I think it's going to be a real exciting battle again this year. And like you, I think Leeds will do well. I think they'll finish top half. Bottom three, different to you, not massively. I think Fulham and West Brom. I said that. I don't know. I think West Brom will go down. I think Fulham play good football, and I think this is the Premier League, so I think they might be okay. But I have a feeling. I think Crystal Palace could go if Zaha goes. I think Palace could go down, and then the last one, I think it's up for grabs. I think there'll be a team that you don't. There's no really expected Bournemouth to go down. Oh. I think there might be a team that sort of sneaks into there and struggles to get out. I think You've got Newcastle, Burnley. I think either one of them two could struggle. I think Southampton will be fine. The Southampton have really built. I think the manager's had good time with them now, and he's built something with them now. After I think they're 9-0 against, was it 9-0, 9-1 against Leicester towards the end of the season, towards like the end of last year to December time. That was like, it could have gone either way. And they had a couple of bad results after that, but they stuck with him, and he showed some real quality. And they obviously beat Man City towards the end of the year. So I think Southampton will be fine. I think they could be really improved this year. But yeah, no, it'll just be good to get football back. And what we want is just put the fans back in as well, just to so we can turn off the fake noise and just try and get to a game. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, it's just great to have everything back, and it'll be. The other thing with that is the fact we're pretty much after lockdown. We've pretty much had, well, when football started again in the Premier League, we've had football pretty much every day, and we've still got it. And obviously the French Ligue has started. You'll have the Premier League, you'll have everything will start, and it's great. We're watching it, you know. Like I said, like we mentioned it in an earlier podcast, that not having the fans there hasn't made a huge difference, because once the players have realised that, they've got the intensity high enough themselves, and having the fake crowd noises help. So, you know, we want the football. You know, obviously we both know football without fans is
but it's it's a special shout out to, like, you know, the paid to do it, they're overpaid to do it, but a special shout out to the players themselves. You know, like they've had to play through, like, you know, the COVID, keeping everybody entertained and keep football fan spirits up. You know, they're going to go through effectively the end of this season. They're going to have a couple of weeks break. They're going to go into a full season, and then they've got the Euros, and then they're going to start again. So, again, you know, the players get a lot of crap in the news and whatever, but, you know, credit to them, especially through this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Until next time. Adios.